It's the Kyle Hyman Show on Redeemer Radio.
This is Kyle Hyman. Joining us for our Theology of the Body Thursday segment is our executive director here at Redeemer Radio, Cindy Black. Thanks for being here, Cindy.
Good morning.
Good morning. So we have the anniversary of Roe versus Wade coming up. It's on January 22nd. That decision was in 1973. And so a lot of our, especially young people, it seems like, but we've got all kinds of people from the diocese are going to Washington, D.C. to participate in the March for Life on Friday. Keep them in your prayers. We also have local March for Lives. There is one in South Bend, one in Fort Wayne, at least. There might be even more local as well. But the idea of abortion and theology of the body seems like a no-brainer. It seems like this could be like a 30-second thing. Just obviously,
right? Yeah.
We don't want to kill people. Theology of the body, the end. But I'm sure there's more to it as well.
Yes. Because we know that there isn't this general consensus that it's wrong.
Right.
And that's why we continue to march, continue to pray. Mm-hmm. That's why so many people will be sacrificing their own comfort to go stand up on behalf of the unborn.
Yeah.
And it really comes down to the dignity and value of the human person, that, theology of the body is the lens by which we see that the human person is both a physical and spiritual being that are united, not separated, that understanding of the integration of the human person is really the key to understanding why abortion is wrong, that it treats the body as if it's not a human person. I think it was a direct quote from St. John Paul II that he said, "We don't have a body, we are a body."
Yeah.
So when we think about abortion, it takes the life of an unrepeatable human person. Mm-hmm. Because the body and soul are integrated, it destroys the body and the soul at the same, that the soul of that person being unrepeatable. It's not like then somebody else that's wanted
right
comes along that has those same qualities and things like that.
Yeah.
So it removes that baby person from this world. Now, we know that the soul is immortal, so it destroys it as far as this life, but then the hope is that we would know all these babies in the next life.
Sure.
But not only does abortion take the life of an unrepeatable, innocent human person, but it also violates the mother's own body. So from the very first moment of conception, changes start happening in the woman's body to prepare for this baby that she is carrying. Mm-hmm. The body knows that another human person is present, and it prepares for taking care of that baby. So the body launches into all these changes. And again, going back to the fact that we're integrated, that abortion unnaturally disrupts that change and really causes confusion in the body. Mm-hmm. We talk about that integration. When that happens in the body, it impacts the woman's soul, whether she wants to acknowledge it or not.
Right.
We can't separate those two things. We're not dualistic. We're not a soul that just has a body over the top of it. Those two things are integrated. Mm-hmm. So what we do with our body impacts our soul. So some people would like to look at abortion as just almost like another form of miscarriage. Just, like you're ending a pregnancy.
Right. Not
rather than
life.
Right. And I think the term pregnancy, as I was preparing for today, when I started thinking about that, and the woman's body changing to care for this baby that has been conceived, I think about it seems like an old-fashioned term, but we used to say she's with child. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if the term pregnancy hasn't become almost a euphemism for a health condition,
right,
rather than with child. And I wonder if we started using that term more often, if it might impact how we think about it.
I think it does dehumanize in the same way that fetus instead of baby or child dehumanizes the person, or at least helps us to disassociate that with a life and maybe kind of downplays the gravity of it. A couple things I'd like to kind of hit on that you mentioned. One is the idea that the abortion affects the woman because it's an attack on her body, which is interesting because that is the phrasing that the pro-abortion movement uses so often, that it's a woman's body and so it's her right to choose. And what you're saying is it's a woman's body, so we need to defend the rights of the woman to protect her body and not encourage her to do damage to her body and soul, which are united, like you said. So it's almost interesting that, and I see this a lot because another comparison that I've heard is the woman saying, it's my body, I should have the right to choose. And Jesus saying, this is my body and I give it up for you, using the exact same phrasing sometimes as a defense for abortion that we would use as a reason not to have an abortion.
Yeah, and actually, I'll send you the link, but I just read just this week this beautiful reflection of a woman who gave birth, and this is my body given for you.
Yeah.
And it's beautiful, so I will send that. I think it was inspired by the scandal in the church and kind of the mess that we have. So I'll give that to you so you can link it to.
I'll put that in the show notes for sure.
Right.
The other thing that you mentioned was that we think of an abortion as like a miscarriage, which is downplayed by society. Miscarriages are downplayed by society, and then abortions are downplayed. I think they should be compared to each other because they both are the loss of a child. And part of the problem is we don't grieve or allow couples to grieve the miscarriage because we don't treat it like a child. In the same way that abortion is like a miscarriage, in the same way your 3-year-old passing away is like a 3-year-old passing away.
Yeah.
Like those are comparable, but I guess in the same way a 3-year-old being murdered is the same as a 3-year-old dying of natural causes or something like that. Those are both horrible situations and we should grieve them. One is natural and unavoidable. The other one is an attack and is avoidable.
Well,
but they both are very sad situations.
Right. Yes. And when a woman's body miscarries, the whole body, it's responding to something that's not right. Either the hormone levels aren't correct or something like that. When an abortion occurs and the body is moving toward this progression of the growth of a child, it's interrupted in such a way that is so unnatural and goes against the woman's body in a different way than a miscarriage does. Because miscarriage, there's something not right to begin with, and the body adjusts itself.
Yeah.
Whereas abortion, it's on this trajectory towards having a baby being brought to birth, to term, to birth, and it's preparing it for that, and it's an interruption of that, and it confuses the body in a lot of different ways. And then those lead to potential health issues down the road that I think few people, our pro-abortion mentality and world fails to really acknowledge and look at oftentimes.
Yeah.
Going back to the notion of it's my body, I can choose whether this baby dwells in it, is really an offshoot of a contraception mentality. That our contraceptive mentality changes the meaning of sex. If we engage in the sexual act and don't expect a baby to be conceived, then we think we have a right not to be pregnant or with child.
Right.
And I found some statistics that are interesting but frightening in that, people in our generation, contraception has been so widely available that I think we fail to recognize that it wasn't always so. And that really abortion has directly followed the legalization of contraception. In the United States, contraception was legalized, and 8 years later was Roe v. Wade.
Right.
In the UK, it was 7 years. In France, it was 8, just like the US. Now, in Ireland, it was 35 years. So I think that's something to look at. Now, some people say it's because it was available in the UK. So, women just went there.
Yeah.
But I also wonder if it, wasn't partially the Catholicism there and understanding the link between sex and producing babies.
Right.
And I think this all comes down to, we have the impression that we have the power, like contraception basically says that we have the power of creation, that we are the gatekeepers of life. So then when a unplanned pregnancy occurs, somehow we've been wronged or that we should be able to do anything necessary to take care of that. So some things that I think we need to do is look at the link between contraception and abortion, and then also start looking at, and this is one of the beautiful things about the march, is they do have the Silent No More women and men there sharing the stories of how their abortions have impacted them. That even women who want to so-called shout their abortion cannot deny that it has impacted their bodies and therefore also their souls.
And not that there isn't forgiveness available.
Right.
Obviously, there's always redemption available, but we have to be open to that. If we're constantly denying that it's a problem, this is with any sin, we can convince ourselves all we want that there's nothing wrong with what we're doing. We can justify it and we can say that because of the situation, it's not a big deal. But until we kind of face that, okay, this did have an effect on me, then we can start to get healing from that, whether it be confession or counseling or probably both, to start to heal the body and the soul, because as we heal the soul from the woundedness, we're probably going to see effects physically from that as well.
Well, I think to a certain degree, but there's also the quote that God always forgives, people sometimes forgive, but nature never forgives. So we can want to be healed bodily from the effects of abortion, but there are certain things that can't be.
Right.
There are women who die from abortion. There are women who are infertile after abortion.
Sure.
And all kinds of other problems. So we got to pray, fast,
lots of things to pray for. Yeah, definitely. And definitely keep those that will be marching in your prayers. And if you're able to go to one of the local marches, please participate in that as well. There's information on the websites for the local pro-life organizations. Thank you, Cindy. And our thanks to Notre Dame Federal Credit Union for underwriting this show, their support. We'll be back tomorrow with another episode. Until then, remember to leave room for the Holy Spirit.